What up? This is Yomo, the legendary West Coast connector, Mr. 6 Degrees of West Coast separation. You name them, I'm connected in 6 moves. And you are now tuned in to Quality Control, the podcast. My man, DJ Epic from Crazy Town, another 30-year friendship in this West Coast hip-hop game. To look at him, you might not think hip-hop, but let me tell you something. This man is way more hip-hop than most of your hip-hoppers. DJ Epic, what's up, bro? So let's talk to people. Tell them a little bit about me and you. In 1984, Taft High School, the Chillin' 3. Let's start there. Let's start there. Yeah.
1984, Taft High School. We're talking about probably a few years into what did they call it? Integration in high schools. Yeah,
integration. Yeah, like busing. Yeah.
And without that, we wouldn't have met.
Right.
And we're talking about a time when hip hop was new.
Very new.
At least in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And that being one of the things that brought not just you and me together, but a lot of kids like us.
Right. The inner city kids with the suburban Jewish kids, and
So, that being said, I was learning how to DJ and pursuing my love for hip hop beyond just listening to and acquiring records.
Right.
Which was tough to do back then.
Yeah.
Because all the good hip hop was pretty much coming out of New York. And since my family and all my roots, family-wise, were in New York.
Brooklyn, right?
Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where I was born. But,
Right.
It made it a little easier for me because I would go back and I would visit and I would record the radio and I would go get clothes.
Right.
And
Mr. Magic's...
Mr. Magic and DJ Red Alert.
Right.
And I would go back and I'd come home with clothes and music and glasses, Cazals.
Oh my God, I remember all that. You would come back to school like with the big B-boy Cazals and like the Lee jackets with like epic airbrush on it and graffiti. It was just so fucking dope. For a West Coast kid to see that.
Yeah, I mean everything that was West Coast and hip hop was kind of cheesy. And
at that time, absolutely, we did not have an identity.
Yeah, and you and I were friends, and we started this lunchtime rap group because we pretty much only existed at lunchtime.
At lunchtime, right. Hey, but we did our thing. I mean, listen, O'Shea was there,
Mm-hmm.
Ice Cube, a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah, and that was our crew.
Yeah.
Our circle in high school was...
It's amazing to look back on it, how deep it was.
No,
right?
there's a movie there.
Yes. I would say...
We can talk about that after the interview.
Yeah. I would say that, like, at that time, man, Taft was kind of like a pseudo school of the performing arts. Kind of. Like, that wasn't the focus of the school, but, like, all this talent was at that school at the exact same time, which is weird.
I'm telling you, you take the music that was happening, you take the racial aspect of it,
mm-hmm.
The socioeconomic aspect of it,
mm-hmm.
The political climate, as far as it's a few years later, but obviously like the Rodney King thing in 92,
mm-hmm.
This was all like a boiling point,
right?
Right. And for us, like, as kids in school, we didn't care about any of that shit.
We was just homies.
Yeah, we were just friends.
Yeah.
And I remember I don't want to name names because it just is what it is. But I remember just, one of my friends that I went to, like, junior high with, and just one of the friends from around the way that we used to play baseball together. And one day he said to me, he's like, yo, Brett, what's up with me? He didn't say, yo, hey, Brett, in the hallway. And I forgot what the D hall, I don't know. One day he's like, what's up with that rap shit? And he starts doing like this, like, beatbox thing. Like, it was in a condescending way. And without getting too deep into it, I didn't really, I was like, whatever. And this is the same kid that you flash forward 3 years and he's driving down the street bumping Beastie Boys and Public Enemy.
I know him, right?
I think you know.
Yeah. I think I got an idea of who we're talking about, but carry on.
Who?
I don't want to say no names. I think I got an idea who you're talking about.
I'm all good with him now. I mean,
no, that's all good. Let's just move on. Let's just move on.
But that was just that was anecdotal to things that happened. You can you had kids from all walks of life just figuring out themselves and where they fit in life.
Right.
And just a bunch of confused souls.
Right.
And one thing that I wasn't confused about was the fact that I loved hip hop music, and I knew what I liked and I knew what I didn't like.
Right.
I knew that I didn't like school. I knew that I knew that if I applied myself, I could get a B in geometry as I did one semester, and that was good enough for me.
One semester.
Yeah. I don't know how I graduated high school, but I grew up in the music industry, and I guess for that reason, my parents somewhat supported me pursuing a career in the music industry.
Yeah.
And before I was out of high school, I had gotten an SP1200 drum machine. I had turntables. I did whatever I could to get these things. I mean, my turntables first sucked. They were belt driven.
I was going to say, did you have belt drives?
Yeah. And after, getting my hustle on and getting up at certain local clubs or doing whatever I could do, I managed to obviously one day get some Technic 1200s.
Right.
But, my life at that time was all about my SP1200 drum machine, my turntables, and I was a drummer before that. My roots as a musician stem from playing drums.
Now, if I remember correctly,
7 years old.
That's what I was about to say. If I remember correctly, the stories that you would tell me, and maybe even your dad, shout out to Earl Mazer, about how you played drums on stage for like Tina Marie.
No.
That's not true?
I didn't play drums on stage for her.
So what was it?
No, my dad was managing Tina Marie. And, we went to rehearsal and I sat in with
right.
her band, which, by the way, if you don't know who Tina Marie is, it's from like the whole like Rick James camp. And
right.
We're talking about some of the illest,
funk,
craziest musicians out there.
Yeah.
And, so my exposure to great musicians goes back to before I can remember. So, I had this deep connection with making records and record production and what a recording engineer was as opposed to a record producer.
Right.
What programmed drums were compared to real drums.
Right.
What an Oberheim synthesizer sounded like.
Right.
What weed smelled like.
You was exposed to all that early.
Yeah.
Right.
What amount of coke looked like. Wasn't sure what it was, but I remember one day I was at the studio with my dad and I wanted to go play the drums. It wasn't my session. I was just there with him. Hey, Dad, can I go play the drums? So he's like, well, let me just make sure they're not coming back in a minute.
Right.
And I go in there and I sit on the stool and I pick up the sticks and I look on the snare drum and there's a mirror there with a mound of blow. And so I was probably
Kids
like
don't do that.
7 or 8 years old at the time. So I really didn't know what it was, but I knew it was drugs.
Right.
Um,
Right.
And so I go back into the control room. My dad said, "What happened? I thought you wanted to play the drums." And I didn't rat anybody out. I was like, "No, I don't know. I changed my mind."
Cool.
Yeah.
You knew early.
I
You
knew I shouldn't.
early.
I knew I shouldn't like hit the snare
Hit the
drum.
snare or sneeze or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but going back to the Chillin' 3,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I beatboxed and you and Darnell rapped.
Mm-hmm.
And we existed at lunchtime, and usually like, you know, around the lunch area. And then sometimes we would ditch school and go
Sometimes.
go to my
All
house.
the time.
Maybe for
4 days out of the 5.
no, but we would come back.
Right.
We would just go long enough,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. We'd make it back to 5th period or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
I don't know how often we would make it back to 5th, because I remember having nightmares that
About 5th period.
yeah, that I forgot where my 5th period class was.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I could not remember when my 5th period
Yeah.
class was.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right on.
So yeah, I don't know. Did O'Shea ever make it over to my house with us?
You know what? I don't think O'Shea did, but I remember JJ, a good friend of ours, you know, introducing you to the twins, Ronnie DeVoe's brothers, right? And, you know, remember, we would also ditch school and go up to Ronnie DeVoe's house. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. When you look back on it, like, our life as,
Yeah.
like, kids, like, we were, like, mingling with celebrities even back then.
I think O'Shea did make it once.
Not to your house.
No?
Well, maybe I wasn't there. Maybe it was just you and him, but I remember him vividly meeting us at the DeVoe's house because they had a little studio that you would work out of.
Oh,
actually.
maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, you used to work out at, and I remember him saying, like, I don't know if you remember this, but he said that he just in the rap game, he just wanted to make enough money so he can get him a Volkswagen Bug.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, he can have a lot of bugs now. I tell you what.
Yeah.
So that led you to, like, that relationship with Ronnie DeVoe and his brothers. That led you to producing for BBD with Wolf, right? Or was that just you? Like the whole Wolf and Epic thing. Was that? Talk about that.
Okay, so you're going past. Yeah. So, I was in the Throwdown Twins.
You was in the Throwdown Twins, which is
Ronnie DeVoe's younger brothers.
Right.
And I was friends with all them, and
Right.
every day over at Ronnie DeVoe's house,
Right.
in his home studio, working on beats. And Ruthless was before. Oh no, Ruthless was after that.
It was way after.
Right.
It was way after that.
So, okay, so this is what happened. So, yeah, so high school and working on beats, and I was already a huge New Edition fan because as a drummer, I'd put on the headphones and I would play to stuff in the headphones.
Right.
And New Edition, I could actually visualize me playing with them because they were kids.
Right.
They were a few years older, but
Right.
it was essentially the same age. So
Right.
in my head, for my visualization, it was believable. And visualization, I think, is huge.
Right.
I think that no matter what, even though as innocent as it was for me back then, to really believe that you belong in that scenario.
Right.
So you gotta so I don't know what year it was, but it was definitely like early 80s.
Yeah.
For me playing drums.
Right.
And playing to songs like Cool It Now.
Right.
And Mr. Telephone Man.
Right.
I felt that.
Right.
Like I felt like in my head, like I was there,
Yeah.
as we do, like as kids. So
Yeah.
I was visualizing that I was playing drums with them,
Right.
and so now all of a sudden I'm friends with them, and their New Edition just finished their last record they did at that time before Belle Biv DeVoe, called Heartbreak.
Any Heartbreak.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really aware of all the beats and everything that I'm making.
Right.
And just in general, and for the Throwdown Twins.
Right.
And I'm always pitching them. I'm throwing, like, check this out.
Right.
And so they come back, and it was like Christmas, because there were two big things. One, which was, we want you to do the remix for our song Any Heartbreak.
Right.
And a little more on the hush.
Right.
We're starting this group, me, Rick, and Mike,
right,
called Belle Biv DeVoe, and it's like more hip hop.
Right.
And we want you to work on some tracks for it.
Right.
So I'm like losing my mind right now.
Right.
So this, that whole visualization thing, I'm like starting to like realize like, oh wow, like maybe there's something to the fact that, like, did I manifest this? Because this is crazy.
Right.
So I did the remix to, I remember sitting at Sunset Sound, big studio on Sunset Boulevard. I don't even think it's working anymore. It's one of the top studios in LA. And they were finishing up some mixes for the New Edition album there. And Gerald Busby and Lewis Silas were there. They're the heads of MCA Records.
Yeah.
And I'm just, trying to keep my mouth shut. I'm just taking everything in. And I'm like sitting on the couch on the side. And I think Mike might have said to Lewis Silas from MCA, like, yo, we want Epic to do the remix for Any Heartbreak.
Right.
In his Mike way.
Right.
And Lil was like, who the fuck is Epic?
Right.
Those were his exact words.
Right.
That's Epic. And I'm like in the corner like
this little kid, like me. Well, that was dope that Mike Bivens,
Yeah. I know. They all had my back.
Yeah.
I mean, I love them to this day. They have a lot to do with, where I'm at now.
But yeah, that was kind of like the professional catalyst for you. Professionally.
Yeah, I mean, other things were going on. I mean, we had a single we did, or we were part of this record called the Greg Mack Presents.
Yeah.
And Greg Mack was the
DJ,
the big DJ
at K-Day. Yeah.
And
shout out to K-Day.
And shout out to Greg Mack.
Yeah.
And so in high school, like I forgot how I was there, but like I was going up to K-Day as much as I could, and I like knew Greg Mack, and he was cool with me because he was trying to put this record together of local LA talent.
Right.
And so like K-Day was the mecca for LA hip hop in a way, because that was the radio station.
Yeah.
AM, had a shitty signal.
Yeah.
But they were playing hip hop morning, noon,
oh,
night.
I know. Now, are you talking about pre-87? Because, my record came out in 87. My first single was Dazzle Dazz. And, like, Greg Mack was, like, all on that shit.
Yeah.
Like, I was getting that shit played like, at least 5 times a day.
Yeah.
Which was cool for a 17-year-old to be, like, on the school bus going home hearing my song on the radio.
It's crazy. That shit doesn't exist anymore.
I know.
Because radio is just completely corporate, and it costs millions of dollars to get there. Unless you're talking about XM, that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But that was my first, like, that made me professional.
Right.
And so little remixes started creeping in, and Belle Biv DeVoe is something that came out and blew up. And at the time, a semester out of high school, I was interning at a record company called SBK, EMI SBK.
Yeah.
And was answering phones, just trying to learn, just in the environment, doing what an intern does. And I'm looking in Radio Records magazine, which is it's a publication where they track radio play.
Right.
And I remember one of the heads of the labels was joking around and said, hey, Brett, our intern, has a higher charting record right now than any of us here.
Right.
I mean, this was a big label. It just happened to be at that moment in time.
Right.
Because they had like Wilson Phillips and...
and you were interning there and you had a record charting higher than their artists.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So...
Wow.
So that was cool. And that didn't work out. I asked some of the A&R guys. I remember this one guy. He's still around in the business. I came up to him and I said, went into his office, knocked on the door. I was like, listen, I just want to learn all I can.
Right.
Can you just give me like anything to do that has to do with like, I just want to learn. And basically he told me, like, I guess his idea of like teaching me something was saying like, listen, I'm still pink in this industry. He's gave me some fucking ridiculous metaphors.
Right.
Basically,
that you still don't understand to this day. Right?
Well, he was just trying to say like, slow down, like,
right,
like you learn it, and like, like don't be up my ass about shit.
Right.
So yeah, like okay, people aren't gonna roll out the red carpet to.
Right. So you figured that out, and you get to, I don't know, MCA like you were saying, and Mike Bivens.
No, well, BBD came out. And that's all over the place. It was like it basically changed R&B music.
For sure.
And it changed hip hop music.
Yeah, it kind of integrated the two.
Yeah.
Right now, let me ask you this: you didn't do Poison.
No.
Did. I thought it was me.
I did a remix to Poison.
Right.
I did Word to the Mother, wrote and produced that.
Right.
That was the video with all of them, including Bobby.
Yeah.
And I did like half that Boot City album.
Right.
And that was a remix album.
Right.
And that
Which they don't do anymore either.
No, and that was also pre Puffy doing his remix albums.
Thing, right.
So he can say he invented the remix.
No.
But I think I invented the remix.
You invented the remix, right.
What I should have been able to capitalize on more was how guys like him and Pharrell marketed themselves in Timberland. And,
right.
And if there's anything that I can look back on was, I don't know how I didn't figure out a way to be in the mix with those guys and kind of join forces with them.
Right.
My whole life, my whole career, I've always been like this weird island unto myself. And
to a fault.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But BBD, but that experience kind of like catapulted you into your dealings with Easy and Ruthless, right? And like producing for Will. Am I correct about that? Let's talk about that.
Do we have enough time to talk about that?
Yeah, we're good.
So, I'd already known Easy a little bit.
How did you know Easy? Just through me?
No, I don't know. Just being introduced to him or whatever, and he knew who I was.
Right.
And I was DJing at, was it Ballistics or something?
Yep. How else would you meet Will? How else did we meet Will? It was Ballistics.
Yeah.
And I just did an interview with Terry Heller, and we talked about that, and I think it's that. It's Ballistics.
Yeah.
I think that's the common thread as far as like our group ending up with like Terry and Will and that group.
So basically
we're older than
there was a momentum of things happening that basically brought myself and Will and Blood of Abraham over to Ruthless.
Right.
I mean, Blood of Abraham was, I remember walking into, I forgot the name of the store at the Topanga Mall, and was it Ben or Mazik?
It was Mazik, and our Journeys. He worked at Journeys.
I forgot. No,
it wasn't Journeys.
Maybe it was Ben. I know it was Mazik, and basically said I got a rap group. He knew who I was. He's like, I saw an interview in the Source magazine. I was interviewed in the Source. I was producing MC Light, and so yeah.
You know what, B? Before we go further, why don't you just go down the line your discography of people you have produced for? Just go. I'll wait.
MC Surge in third base. MC Light. Prince. Belle Biv DeVoe.
Yep.
New Edition. New Kids on the Block.
New Kids on the Block.
Mobb Deep.
Shaq.
Little John. Crazy Town. Oh, man.
Will I Am.
Yeah, Will I Am. Can't remember everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Seal.
Ladies and gentlemen, this man is professional. Not just hip hop, all over. That's what's up, man. That is what's up. So you know, you rocking out with BBD, you DJing at Ballistics. Easy knows about you. Mozik from Blood of Abraham or Ben.
Well, no, we had already started working on some demos, and basically it was like when I was brought over to Ruthless, it was kind of like they were looking for some way to start to recover after Dre left.
Right.
And that being said, you know, I think there were, you know, it was the Appan clan, it was Blood of Abraham, and I think that rest in peace, Easy. If he would have stayed around, it would have been. I think it could have all come to fruition. Kind of got cut short.
Yeah. Go into the experience, or you know, the realm of the Blood of Abraham years. You know, the first video being filmed in Israel, and you know, just like a militant kind of like Jewish rap group, and you know, you being Jewish yourself, like what was that like mentally, and just
It made complete sense, because at the time, Blood of Abraham was it was kind of like influenced and was part of that whole kind of native tongue movement.
Right.
So the native tongue movement in hip hop was really identifying with, you know, culture and and your roots, and more socio-political, you know, kind of perspectives, rather than, you know, what was, you know, rather than like drugs or violence or so talking about for those guys being Jewish and also loving groups like Brand Nubian, who freely kind of perpetuated teachings of
5%
of Louis Farrakhan.
Right.
Calling white people, or maybe even more specifically Jewish people, devils.
Right.
They were not afraid of that.
Right.
But we're like, no, let's talk about this.
Right.
You want to call me a devil?
Right.
And Easy was down with that too. He's like, fuck that, you know?
Which is so interesting.
Yeah. So, for me on just on a personal level and on a musical level, it was just, it was beyond words to be in Israel shooting a hip hop video for a group that was signed to Ruthless Records,
the world's most dangerous record label at the time. It's so odd and interesting at the same time. Yeah, you guys. I remember. Clearly, I was there. We had some good times, man. Those trips to Vegas and San Diego, and just it was definitely interesting. Yeah. So bridge the gap for me between Blood of Abraham and Crazy Town. Just the time in between. I guess I must have been MIA.
Well, so Blood of Abraham, I had the loft downtown before they started gentrifying downtown LA here, which is right outside the windows here.
Right.
I had a loft downtown, and I was at the time living with Ben from Blood of Abraham. And I had a studio there, and was producing will.i.am and Black Eyed Peas, and just a lot of other things. And I had Platinum Records on the wall, and I was already this kind of successful record producer with a BMW and my own studio.
Right.
What happened was, quite often the after parties for a lot of shows and things that were happening in LA would end up at my loft.
At your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Will introduced me to Seth from Crazy Town. And he said, you should start your own group. I mean, you are kind of in Blood Abraham, but you don't really rap. Like, you should, like, because I was rapping a lot on
Right.
shit. So he's like, yo, you gotta meet my boy, Seth. I know him from the club. So he brings Seth and whatever. We start this group. Didn't expect it to really take off. And in fact, we were just kind of making music for the fun of it. And it was getting around to a lot of who's in LA. And we were starting to do this thing where it was really, it wasn't quite the Beastie Boys. It wasn't really Rage Against the Machine. I think it was pre-Rage.
Mm-hmm.
It was pre-Limp Bizkit. And then Limp Bizkit comes out. And Fred Durst knew who we were. And Korn knew who we were.
Right.
And these are guys that were on Immortal Records. And Immortal Records, much like Ruthless Records, if you're a big star on that label, they kind of utilize those artists as A&R people as well.
Right.
And
was Immortal Records owned and ran by Amanda Shear?
yeah.
Oh, really?
No, yeah, wait.
Or did she
Limp wasn't on where it was, no, well, Limp wasn't on there. They were all part of same management company.
Right.
So they were all part of the firm. And it was just like this, group of people. But the point of my story is that a lot of people were passing around our music.
Right.
And at the time we started getting way too deep into partying in the Hollywood scene.
Right.
And at this point, people are starting to approach us about making a real record and not just these tapes that we were
Right.
that people had. And long story short, after 5 years, we had a major record
deal. Columbia. Yeah.
Friend of ours, Danny Ostro, helped us shop it, and he was in radio promotion at Trauma Records, and he used to hang out with us, or we hung out with him, depending on the day.
Right.
And I didn't want to shop Crazy Town on my own because I knew all the A&R people at all the labels.
Right.
So I didn't want them to sign Crazy Town because it was my group.
Right.
I wanted them to sign it because they thought it was dope.
It was dope on its own merit.
On its own merit.
Right.
And so we ended up going with Columbia Records, and that ended up blowing up way bigger than I ever thought. I was fine with going, putting that out and going back into writing and producing. And our managers at the time were called, they're still around, Q Prime Management, and they managed the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Metallica and Shania Twain.
Wow.
They were just the biggest.
Yeah, you guys were with heavy hitters. Well, that's because you guys were heavy hitters too. You had a smash, man. Butterfly was a smash.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Well, even before Butterfly came out, we were about to go on our first tour with Red Hot Chili Peppers, opening up for them.
Wow.
And my manager, Peter, wanted to take me to a meeting at the 9000 building where Drive Records is.
On Sunset.
And what's this meeting about? It's like, well, there's this new band, and they want to talk to you about producing them. I'm like, cool, that's what I want to do. He's like, yeah, but we're taking this meeting kind of out of respect, but you're about to go on the road.
Right.
So I'm just, I didn't say much about it, but so I listened to the music, and I meet this guy, and he's the new singer, and they had another singer, and they were called one thing, and then they had to change their name, and now the album is going to be the band name, and the band name is going to be the album name. And I listened to it, and they're telling me we really love what you do, and we'd love to work on some music with you. And we leave the meeting, and I said, I really want to do it. And he says to me, you can't. You're about to go on the road.
Right.
And that band was Limp Bizkit. I mean, not
Wow.
Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park.
Linkin Park. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're like, yeah.
What a story, right? What a story.
So, so we're in the meeting and they're like, right now we're called Hybrid Theory, but we're going to change the name. I think we're going to call the album Hybrid Theory. This is Chester and he's our new singer. And
Right,
blah, blah, blah.
right.
And I loved him. And I was like, I want to work with them. He's
Right.
like, yeah, but it's not set in stone and you'd have to go in the studio with them and work on blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, but we really need to keep my career as a producer going.
Right.
And really, if he was telling me the truth, he would have said to me, I really don't give a fuck about your career as a producer.
Right.
I care about you as an artist because that's the money that we're making from you.
Right.
But that's lack of vision. I mean, we're talking about a management company, Q Prime. I don't know if I love them as people, but their philosophy on the record business was completely outdated because we would get approached as Crazy Town for sync opportunities all the time. Sync is when they put your music as a band into
A commercial
or a
yeah.
movie or a TV show.
Yeah.
And they would not want to do it 95% of the time.
Who wouldn't want to do it? Your management?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they figured, why sell the soundtrack for said movie? We need to sell our records.
Right.
How's
I
that
guess
going to
that
help
makes
you?
sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay. Okay, well, break it down. Break it down. Break it down. How does it not make sense?
In an industry that existed pre-downloading,
Okay.
when you had to go buy the record
A
of
physical record.
yeah,
Right.
maybe it could apply then,
Right.
depending on the business situation. If it was lucrative enough, then
Right.
you would license your material.
Right.
Otherwise, you want to sell your material,
Right.
not some movies.
Right.
Also, for the perception of the artist, pre-downloading, artists weren't so quick to lend their music to advertising or movies or TV. Nowadays, if you want to be a successful artist,
That's kind of your bread and butter these days.
you're hoping that that tide comes knocking on your door.
Because you're going to get way more money than selling records.
Well, yeah, records were always at the bottom of the list of how you were making your money anyway.
Right.
Back then, but now it's really
at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of their stories was that they used to bring up all the time about Alanis Morissette. I forgot what movie it was. Anyway, it just didn't make any sense. It's like, we already saw it. For me as a younger person and knowing like how people were starting to get made aware of music and following music, it was already shifting. I mean, the writing was on the wall for Napster to come out, and and the file sizes were small enough for music where you could, on a peer-to-peer basis, start to get things for free.
Right.
And that platform came out, and that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
And heads of all the labels got fired, and bands got dropped,
Right.
and the income and the money flow stopped,
Right.
and the record business has still never recovered.
Right. And what's so interesting, because you say the record business, what really holds true is that, I mean, just look around, look at what you're doing. The music business is alive and well.
Yeah.
The record business is all but dead.
Right.
Yeah, that's really true. Now, you know what? What's really interesting to me about Crazy Town, and probably
Which
too...
I'm no longer a part of anymore.
Okay, disclaimer. What was really interesting to me, and I guess, just culturally because I'm black, the whole like hip hop aspect of Crazy Town with the rock music. That was very interesting for, even though I knew you, for like a black guy. You know what I mean? So like, how was that? Like, I know you got this hip hop background, so I'm sure it was pretty easy for you to incorporate the rock and the hip hop, but like, how did you even get to that? Considering that like, the majority of your music career was hip hop, primarily. Like, how did you make that shift to? And mind you, you did it great too.
No, because I love all kind of music. Seth loved all kind of music. So the thing is that we wanted to have a band, and
But you didn't want to be the Roots, though.
no, and we didn't want to be Limp Bizkit either.
Right.
If you look at Limp Bizkit, and Fred will even tell you, it was like we kind of we ended up at the same place, but coming from two different directions.
Right.
I mean, I had this discussion with him. You know, Fred said to me, he's like, no, but you and Seth's flow, you guys always had that. You guys...
Because y'all had, like, real hip-hop.
Yeah.
It was,
So the thing is we were coming more from hip-hop, and...
He was coming more from rock.
Right, and so was Linkin Park.
Right.
And so it was a natural thing for them as much as it was for us, as much as it was for Linkin Park, as much as it was for Rage Against the Machine, as much as it was for the Beastie Boys.
Right.
And
it seems like the Beastie Boys remained a little more hip hop longer than because
no, you got to understand the Beastie Boys started out as a punk rock band.
Well, I remember that.
So the thing is that they're signed to Def Jam Records, just by virtue of where things were at in their neck of the woods and what they were doing, and being down with Rick Rubin, and it just made 100% sense that that's where they were at.
Right.
You know, they were doing hip hop records.
Right.
And it was, you know, and music progresses and but at the same time, you look at an album like Paul's Boutique for them, and they're, you know, now they're starting to play a lot of their own shit, and they're sampling their own shit, and they're just playing their own shit live, and they're breaking out the bass and the drums.
Right.
And then so... But they were kind of going more on the soul side of things,
more so than rock.
So all we're talking about is music. All we're talking about is music.
Right.
So, and for us, it's like I wanted to have a drummer on stage. I wanted to have a bass player and a guitar player on stage.
But B, coming from hip hop like that, why? Because listen, we come from the same school at the same time, bro. I've never thought about having a live band on, because to me, hip hop is two turntables and a microphone. How did you get past that? Because that was hard for me to get past.
It didn't matter. It's just what I wanted to do. I wasn't thinking about it like that.
Okay.
This is just what I want to do.
Right. And you did it well. You guys did it very well.
I just know that it was like if you can have a show and just have more than two guys on a mic.
Walking back and forth.
And three of your boys behind you.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
A little more showmanship is what you're saying, kind of at the end of the day, huh?
Look, I mean, my first show that I ever went to as a kid, my dad took me to go see Kiss, and I was like, 7 years old. So it's like, you know, that kind of grandeur was something that, not that I wanted to do, but, you know, my influences are vast.
Right.
So even if you're a band these days, the days of, even if you're playing at a club on the Sunset Strip,
right.
If you want to be better than everybody else, you got to be more than just four guys on stage playing music.
Right.
Which means you got to have production. Which means you have to have some sort of projections or lighting,
right,
and an aspect to your show production-wise besides you guys playing,
right,
that separates you from everybody else.
Right.
So, so that being said, it's, you know, that's all because of, in a sense, you know, kind of ties in with the record business kind of disintegrating. It used to be that, like, when you got to a certain level, if you had a major behind you, a major label, you had production money, and if you were going to play at bigger venues, at the Palladium, at the Staples Center, you had production.
Right.
But nowadays, it's like it's hard out there, and it's forcing bands to be more creative. It's great on that level. It's really, you know, it's forcing new artists to be, you know, super creative,
right?
But it's also forcing them to be super marketing geniuses. And the days of, like, if you just want to get high all day, good luck. I mean, I don't know how many, you know, if you're just gonna, you know, wake up and smoke weed all day and night, you better have enough money to pay people to keep on top of your shit, because the days of just being really good at what you do
and letting somebody else handle the business,
or just showing up to a record label and doing your thing, and they're gonna fucking sign you, and that's over. It's like even the majors. It's the majors like don't. If in one hand they have the dopest new talent that could be the biggest new talent in the next 50 years.
Right.
In one hand, but no social media numbers.
Right.
No Instagram followers. No Twitter followers.
Right.
And then they got something that really fucking sucks that everybody loves.
Right.
They're signing what everybody loves. That has the social media numbers because they're in the business to make money. And I'm not saying anything that people don't know. I'm not spitting this out as if I'm the only one who knows this. Everybody knows this.
Right.
That's why, before I started I knew 5-6 years ago I wanted to start getting into the movies because, I had a publishing deal and I'm constantly in writing sessions with, some amazing writers and pitching songs to all the biggest artists in the world. And sometimes we even get the artists like, so-and-so's coming in tomorrow. They love the song. Right. But the label's not paying you until the song's on the record. Right. Everybody expects shit for free in the music business. Right. As if my time is free.
And not valuable.
Right.
Enough.
So, and you see that with new artists. It's like, even somebody on an independent level, they'll go and they'll pay some producer, $1,000 to do 2 or 3 songs. Right. And then they'll go and they'll spend $5,000 or $10,000 on a video. Right. Right. Isn't that backwards?
It's backwards as hell. Yeah. But it kind of falls right into the whole, it's all about 360 deals these days.
Well, it falls into the fact that it's like you need to promote this visual, and the visual costs more money. Look, bottom line is it's all fucked up. Right. And and I'm too old to deal with this fucked up shit. So I'm like,
it's fucked up. You hear
that? So I was like, I need to get into movies. I want to, learn some other things, and it's getting kind of scary out there. Yeah. And I'm getting older, and my son's about to go to college, and I really just don't see myself, pitching songs anymore.
And that leads us to where we are now, literally and physically in this room. This is your sound design bay, or how would you say it?
This is my studio.
Okay. Well, clearly, but it's not like a record studio. You're like doing sound designs.
I do records here too. Like I'm still working on. So I'm not giving up the records altogether. Okay. So I still got Billy and the Kid. Okay. And I partnered up with Fitz from Fitz and the Tantrums.
Lisa manages them.
I know. Yeah. Lisa's managing Billy and the Kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Lisa, who we went to school with, Lisa Newpoff, who manages Fitz and the Tantrums, is managing this band that I've, in my years, all through I've always developed things. Whether it be Blood of Abraham or Crazy Town. There was I like to see something from a seed
to a full bush. Right.
And so my new one is Billy and the Kid, and so Fitz from Fitz and the Tantrums heard their shit and flipped out, and basically I'm like, that's exactly what they need. They need somebody mega like that to sign on. Right. So I'm still tied into the music business or to the record business with them. Right. And we'll be doing the whole major label dance with them and everything. Okay. But I started learning about feature films. I really wanted to make great movies. Right. And I wanted to learn about, what it takes to make a movie sound great. You look at amazing movies like Mad Max Fury Road. Right. Those guys that won the Oscar for best sound in a movie. Right. Whether it be that movie or anything else, 90% of them started out in music somehow.
Right. Sound is sound, right?
Right. So, and usually your entree into that usually is music. Right. Some of them went to school to be in post-production sound. Some, most didn't. Right. And so I've just found it. I found it fascinating, and the scoring as well. I was learning all of that part of it while I wanted to learn how to score.
Right.
I love scoring because scoring you don't have to worry about. It's like, okay, so we're pitching this song to Beyonce, so we have to make sure that we hit our chorus by the time we get to 35 seconds.
Right.
And we got to make sure that 6 seconds in, everybody's bobbing their head.
Right.
And we got to make sure that the bridge is 8 bars long. We got to make sure there's a post-chorus that everybody can sing along to.
Right.
And all these fucking things that you got to do to make a huge pop song.
Right.
In movies, you don't do that. You're just painting pictures with sound.
Right.
And you're supporting an emotional narrative.
Right.
And you know, whether it be, you know, Trent Reznor or, you know, just Hans Zimmer, you know, whether you're talking about, you know, something really left of center or something really traditional score-wise, it all really appealed to me, and I knew that I had a lot to learn.
Right.
And as I started learning about all of that, I was like, wow, this whole other side of it, the sound design part. And then I learned what the guy that delivers the final mix of a movie is called a re-recording mixer. And I already, and I've been doing this within the next month. I'm going to have 5 credits on my IMDb as re-recording mixer. I'm going to have 3 credits on my IMDb as a score.
Hell yeah.
And so, which leads me to believe there are other people getting into the film business that have the same kind of pedigree that I do.
Right.
Coming from music, producing their own stuff in Pro Tools, starting to learn feature film.
Right.
And so for me, right now, I'm going after this the same way I went after music when we were in high school.
Right.
And with that same sort of intensity.
Right. But smarter.
Smarter with more experience, but I know that there's always somebody behind you that's more talented, that you just have to want it more.
Right.
You know, because there's so many people way more talented than me. You know, there's people that are doing like huge movies.
Right.
That better be afraid of guys like me.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right. So obviously the ultimate goal for you is what, like an Oscar for
that's the ultimate
design?
goal. That's crazy talk right there.
Yeah.
For me, I just want to be able to, you know, pay my bills,
make a living,
and buy a Volkswagen Bug. No, I just want to be able to do what I love, work on really good movies. My friend G. Joe Reed, who owns the company that here, it's called Sugar Studios LA. We're one-stop shop for independent feature film post-production.
Right.
And the reason why we're different than everybody else is because, you know, I'm the department head as far as music and audio is concerned. We have Paul Buell, who's heading up, you know, editorial, and he was running things at a big post house called Hydraulics, and we each have like 20 years of experience. So in the film business, you get your movie sound at one place, you get your score at another place, you get your editing done at another place, you get your color done at another place, you get your visual effects done at another. You're farming out every aspect of your movie to like 8 to 10 different places.
Right.
Whereas like
here,
you can come here and
it's all done.
Yeah, and we're not talking about like $250,000 movies. We're talking about, you know, $5 million movies, $10 million movies, $20 million movies, and our goal creatively is to make the Whiplashes of the movie world. So Whiplash is a movie that cost $1 million. How
much did it make?
I don't know how much it made, but it won the Oscar for Best Film. And it was an independent movie.
Right.
And
on a budget of $1 million.
You know, there's a lot of soul and heart in that movie.
Right.
You know, you can look at a lot of the greatest movies that are coming out these days are independent film.
Right.
And so for me, what I realized without being able to verbalize it a few years ago, but I knew instinctively, was there's no money in independent music.
Right.
But there's a shit ton of money in independent movies. You know. Yeah. So I wanna go where I can do something that fulfills me creatively. Right. And be able to make a living.
Right. Right. And you seem to be doing it. I mean, looks like you're having fun.
I love what I do.
You love coming here every day, and it's just I mean, dude, the offices are fucking dope. Just everything's fucking dope. You're in a dope ass building.
I love
it's
what
a
I
great
do.
fucking look.
I mean, you know, there's certain aspects of working on movies like dialogue cleanup that, you know, that are a pain in the ass, but that's why, you know, you have assistants, and that's why, you know, you for me, it's like learning what it takes to bring home a movie.
Yeah.
Just even on the sound, forget about the score. Just, you know, I could play you some, you know, a movie that I'm working on. It's like what you're given is usually shitty dialogue.
Right.
And when you go and you watch a movie and you hear cars driving by and you hear footsteps and you hear atmosphere and you hear birds and you hear a gunshot and like all that, none of that existed.
You would have to put all that in there. It's like,
and not only do you have to put it in there, but it has to be done and mixed properly in a way that you don't notice it. So if you watch a movie and you don't think twice about how it sounds, they did a great job.
They did a great job. Right.
Yeah. Whereas on the other side, if I want to go back to Mad Max, you know, that movie, it's weird. You can watch that movie. Next time you watch that movie, notice the crazy ass like 18-wheeler truck that they're driving in.
Right.
You know, with no doors, through the desert, with a guy playing electric guitar on the front of it.
Right.
And fire shooting out of it. And he's sitting in the car and he's talking like this.
With all that other shit going on around.
Now, to be able to pull that off as believable,
right?
You know, that's a surreal environment.
Right.
You know, so if you're in charge of the sound for that movie, you are making something that would never exist sonically in the world.
Right.
And you're not allowing your audience to question it once.
Right. Now let me ask you this. With that being said, do you think the transition from music to, I guess, audio and scoring for film, do you think that was easier for you because you come from a music background, or if you went to film school and then got into this? It's easier because you come from music first, right?
Yeah, no, I have an assistant that is certified, Pro Tools certified in post-production.
Yeah, man, that is all very, very fascinating, interesting. I'm glad to see you, you know, progress past the scary death of the record business. You know, a lot of our friends didn't survive it.
Man, I'm just blessed. I mean, on the musical level, I got, you know, in about 2 weeks, I'm gonna have 3 movies I have to deliver score-wise.
That's what's up.
And audio-wise. And when I'm not busy, I'm hating life. So I'm blessed.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
brother. Good talking to you, man. I love seeing you. If it ain't qualified, it ain't this. Peace.
Hey, yo, my quality control captivates your party patrol. Your mind, body, and soul. Who the bell tolls like the rhythm explode. Big, bad, and bold.